What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Devy Royale YouTube channel. I'm your host, as always, Kevin Coleman, and we're back with another mock draft. It is Monday, and we're going to be doing a rookie mock draft, but it's going to be a one quarterback mock. So we had some people out there say, hey, want a one quarterback, and we definitely want to cater to everybody. It's not just super flex out there. So we got together a bunch of guys, and when you look at this, like the people that participated in this mock, it's pretty much everybody. There's not really analysts. It's people out there, everyday fantasy managers that I really like drafting with, because it just shows you kind of what the everyday market is, which I think is a little different than what a lot of fantasy content will give you. I think they give you a lot of analyst stuff, and we've been on that front too, but I think it's good to show a little bit of both. So we're going to be looking at a one quarterback mock. We're going to be going through sleepers. We're going to be looking at tiers in one quarterback, some spotlights of guys that I think are valuable or who could be that, hey, wow, if he's still here in the third or fourth, you grab him. So hit that like and subscribe button while the intro music is going, and then we'll dive into it. All right, let's get into it. So, like I said, we're going to be doing a rookie mock draft 2023, one quarterback. And, when we're talking about just where everybody's at right now, it's starting, man. We're looking at the Senior Bowl happening, the East-West Shrine Bowl. So we're going to start getting measurements. We're going to start seeing kind of where the value's at in terms of all of these guys. And so let's dive into the mock. Let's kind of talk about what happened, and we'll go through the first round. So here's the first 6 picks. So Bijan Robinson at the 101. That's pretty much cut and dry, especially in single quarterback. What's going to happen there? Jahmyr Gibbs is the 102. I would imagine that's pretty chalk. And then you have Jackson Smith-Njigba at 3, and then Jordan Addison at 4, and Quentin Johnson at 105. So when we're talking about tiers, so I just want to bring this up real quick, just because, first round tiers. Well, here's our first round tier. It's the 105. And then you could argue that really it's like Bijan and Gibbs because of their value at the running back position in this. Or you can say Gibbs is its own tier at 101. But in reality, I think after 105, if you're in a single quarterback, you have a clear tier break. And Sean Tucker going at 106 is kind of a I don't want to say it's a reach, but I think consensus has not caught up to Sean Tucker and what he possibly could be. Like I believe you looking at just Brugler's list in terms of where he's at in running back. We saw him as low as running back 9 on a few lists. Like Sean Tucker's probably going to take a dip. So if you're drafting before the NFL draft or maybe all this pre-draft stuff, Sean Tucker might be my big avoid so far, just based on where he's going in drafts. But that's where the tier is at, 105. So just consider where you have your picks if you're in a single quarterback league and where that looks like, because 105 is really where you want to get into or higher. And you're really looking at, if you're not in the top 2, you're not going to get 2 of those running backs. And then wide receiver wise, like if you want to go get Jackson, you probably need to be at 103 unless someone falls in love with Quentin Johnson or Jordan Addison. Then you have Sean Tucker, like I said, at 106. Now let's look at this second half. Zach Charbonnet at the 107. He's starting to get up boards. He's getting there. We've been talking about in Superflex drafts, kind of going in the late first. Now he's going at the 107. Michael Mayer at the 108. So, hey, again, tight end, looking in terms of like, hey, I'm going to go grab him. I think that's a safe pick. Like, I think Mayer's going to be a safe pick throughout the boards. Like, he's not going to be an amazing, hey, deal, top 3 tight end year in and year out, but he's going to be a very safe guy. And I think at the 108, that's value. Zach Evans is getting a lot of hate right now in terms of where he's at. So I think when you're looking at these running backs, so you have Zach, you have Tank, and then Zach again. And then you look in there, who goes after the Gibbs? I think that's the question mark. There's no solid number 3. And then it's just based on what are you looking for in a running back and where his draft capital is. That's essentially what we're waiting for now in terms of all these mocks is this, and it's going to start shaping it up a little bit, but it's good to see that. And then we have our first quarterback off the board, is CJ Stroud. Now, what do you think that's a good pick or not in a single quarterback? I understand that the value may not have been there. I don't think it's a bad pick in terms of like what's out there right now. So the Dynasty quarterback landscape is kind of a mess. So we're just thinking about who's there, what's going on in terms of like the value there. I think CJ at the 112, if you won the league and let's say you need a quarterback or vice versa, or for value play, like you can kind of ship them and go. Like if CJ ends up being a top 10 quarterback in there, like I don't hate the pick. It might've been a little early. But overall, like what do you guys think in the comments? Like, do you think CJ was a little early? What do you think there? But then you got Joshua Downs there at the wide receiver. So really, yeah, 3 wide receivers go in the top 5, and you'll have another one go to a 111. So when we're thinking tiers and we're thinking where everybody's kind of at, I think that's kind of what we're looking at, right? right? In terms of where the wide receivers are, you see that big kind of flux, and you have a bunch of running backs, and then we're going to go on a little bit of a wide receiver run here in the second round. But I do want to spotlight a guy, and I think it's a guy that's going to get, it's interesting. Tank Bigsby's been interesting this whole offseason. We've kind of talked about it on the channel. 6'2", 213. We've seen that. Production's been okay. 834 yards, 1,000 yards, 907 yards in the 3 years that he played. Receiving's not necessarily always going to be there. He's not really a receiving back. But when you're looking at him, he's going to have a very solid profile. I know some people are talking about him just being an average player, but you could realistically have him being like running back 3 or 4 of this class. And if you can get him in the late first and a single quarterback, that's not a bad value play in terms of where he's going right now. So Tank is a guy to kind of highlight. Now, I wanted to show you kind of his draft capital. Now, if you don't know what this is mock draft database. And mock draft database shows everybody's draft capital, where they go based on mock drafts. So there's a little foolproof in here, right? Remember, Malik Willis is getting first round mock draft capital last year. But Tank right now is projected a third. And you'll see where his kind of value has been. It's been going up and down depending on the mocks that you're in. But if he can get day two draft capital, I think Tank's going to find himself in the first round of these drafts, right? So if he's going to get that day 2 draft capital with all these running backs, I think he's there. First round, he's at 3%. I don't see him going in the first round, obviously. Best rank's 47th. That's pretty good. That's probably his ceiling in terms of where he's going to be going. But if he can find himself in that third round, that's kind of where I would like to get Tank in terms of where his draft's at. Now, in the second round, let's take a look at the second round now. So we have Zay Flowers. Now, Zay's getting a ton of love out there right now. And we've liked him. I've liked him for 3 years. He's killing the Shrine Bowl right now. He didn't go to the Senior Bowl, and they've been talking about him there. I know he measured in a little bit, so 5'10", 5'9". The measurements, again, we want to make sure the final, we're going to be looking at him. But if he does measure at 5'9.5", where is that going to be in terms of like, what are people comfortable with that? I know some people are throwing out Antonio Brown comps, which that's a high ceiling, right? A lot of high praise. Now, again, 201 though, I love it, right? Kayshon Boutte again. Talent. Like, these guys are talented, these wide receivers that we have here. And I think Kayshon's really the wild card of this class and this group because we don't know what he's going to be. Injuries, all the stuff that's happened, off-season stuff. So at 202, pretty good value. Bryce is our second quarterback on the board, 203. Don't hate that pick at all. Kendre Miller, TCU running back at 204. Again, what is his draft capital going to be? I think that's the key thing with Kendre. Devin Achane, again, smaller back, but hey, value there, right? The 205. And then Jalen Hyatt at the 206, which I think is a value. We're going to spotlight Hyatt here in a minute. But at 206, if you can get a guy that might be going to the first round or like second round, that's just a value of even in a single quarterback. And that's, again, what I wanted to kind of harp on. There's depth here in this class, right? So there's tons of depth as we go through it and we talk about and we kind of go in. Now, in the second half of the second round, you got Dalton Kincaid. Again, Dalton's number one tight end in terms of some people out there. So if you think of Michael Mayo, we're literally at 108. It's almost a round before him. If you want to wait, grab like a Charbonnet who they did in this draft, I thought was very good, and then get Kincaid. And because you want that tight end and you're like, hey, I'm going to go get him. That's probably the move. Like, if you feel like you feel like there might be a tier break at the running back position or even maybe the wide receiver position. Let's say Quentin Johnson falls. And you're like, hey, I don't want to take Michael Mayo here because I don't know about his upside and ceiling, but I'll take, whoever best player available at the running back or wide receiver position and then grab Dalton later. I think that could be definitely the move that you make. Rashee Rice at the 208, not bad. Deuce Vaughn, small little Deuce Vaughn at 209. Then we got Tyjae Spears. I think that's a pretty good draft pick at the 210. And again, you're seeing the running backs, right? Just freaking running backs after running backs in the first and 2 rounds. And you see it here with Miller, Achane, Vaughn, Spears, Brown, and then Rodriguez. And Chris Rodriguez is a guy from Kentucky that's getting a little love too out there. All these guys are going to be getting love as we go through the process, except for maybe Mohamed Ibrahim, which we'll talk about. But if you're looking at just from the board, just from the first 2 rounds, right? So here are the running backs off the board. We got Bijan and Gibbs, Tucker, Charbonnet, Zach Evans, and Bigsby, right? So you have basically 6 picks there. Then you have Miller, Achane, Vaughn, Spears, Brown, and Rodriguez. So again, you're looking at 12 running backs taken in the first 2 rounds. So half the picks we're getting running backs. So that's where the value's at, right? That's where we see the value going to play. These are big running back. This is why the Dynasty running backs, we got to understand that the landscape is changing, okay? Now, even though we're talking about running backs, I'm going to spotlight a wide receiver, and that's Jalen Hyatt. Hey, listen, I think that we're galaxying Brandon Hyatt a little bit. When you look at the metrics, we did a big thing on our Patreon recently. We broke down his analytical profile. He hits all the metrics from his last year, right? So he has that. 12 games, 67 catches, 1,200 yards, 15 touchdowns. Draft capital is going to be there. We're going to show that in a second. But again, if he gets this draft capital, so right now, his consensus is the Chargers. First round is 27%, which is pretty high for the wide receivers. Even if he gets second round, it's there. Overall rank is 37th. Best rank is 30th. But consensus, like if he goes to the Chargers in these other areas, he's going to shoot up boards, right? So right now, it's a value at the 206. I'm smashing that all day, even for someone who I have question marks about Hyatt. like legit question marks. So if that's the case, like you're talking to someone that has question marks there, but if he's going to the mid second, late second, I think we're just galaxy braining Hyatt a little bit because of that 1 year. They're worried about it. I think Will Fuller is a great comp for Hyatt with in terms of where his value's at and what he could be in his player comp. But I like Hyatt. I think that if he can get a good team, now if he's going to the early first, then we're just talking, right? Late first, okay, let's talk about discussions. But in middle second, I'll smash that all day in terms of where his value's at. Now, third round. So if we're going to take a look at the third round, we're just going to go through all 12. You have Izzy at 301. I really like Abanaconda. He's really good. 302, Marvin Mims. That's a value. Like Marvin Mims is going to be a value out there in leagues. Raheem Jarrett, Cedric Tillman, Rashawn Johnson, Anthony Richardson at 306. That's a value play there for Richardson. DeRay McBride, 308, Kenny McIntosh, Darnell Washington, Luke Musgrave, Will Levis, and Xavier Hutchinson. Xavier at 312 is a pretty good value as well. But if you look at the third round, I think the things that start out to you, you're going to get a little bit more wide receivers, the older wide receivers, or even like the Raheem Jarrett's ceiling play, right? So you're going to look at that, and then some tight ends are going to just get sprinkled in there. And then hey, we'll take a shot on those two quarterbacks. So essentially, you're probably seeing Stroud and Young going in the early second, and you're going to see Richardson and Levis going in the late third. For those of you that need a quarterback in one quarterback league or want to shore up your depth, that's kind of where their ADP is right now. Now, in terms of player spotlight, I got to go Marvin Mims here. You know, we did a Patreon breakdown of this analytically, and he has a ton of those profiles there. He has, I think it's 20, you know, when he took a look at his deep balls, everything, he's one of the best deep ball catchers in college football this last year, according to PFF grades, all of that stuff they graded out. Again, it's on the Patreon if you want to join. $3 a month, you can find it in the description. But 13 games, 54 catches, 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns. Marvin is one of those guys that's going to get probably draft capital that we're not expecting. Now, right now, based on where he's going in mocks, third round. But if he's going to third round, you can get him where he's at in the third round of rookie drafts. I think that's not bad. Consensus maybe, hey, maybe he takes, Lockett's place in Seattle. Or, hey, I've seen Cowboys get mocked to him a lot in the third round as well. Maybe they add him there. Now, as much as I don't like when the Cowboys draft a wide receiver because they ruin him, that's still value, right, in terms of where you're at. So if you get in third round, based on the analytical profile, based where he's at, Marvin Mims in the third round is a legitimate draft. Now, and other guys, Rashawn Johnson's out there, Izzy's out there, good picks there. But hey, Marvin Mims is someone to highlight. Watch his pre-draft process, see where he's going. Now, fourth round, Eric Gray, Wicks, Parker Washington, Muhammad Ibrahim, Nathaniel Dell, Charlie Jones, Hendon Hooker, Puka Nakua. I love Nakua. I can't believe I just did that. Jacob Copeland, Stetson Bennett coming off of a drunken disorderly. Good for you, Stetson. You're just ruining your draft stock. But he did get drafted in this. Tavion Thomas and Keaton Mitchell there. Just player spotlight for me. Once you get to the fourth round, it gets really, really not a lot of depth in the fourth round in terms of where you're at in terms of one quarterback. But Eric Gray, I'm going to say this. I was not an Eric Gray person when he transferred to Oklahoma in 2021. Before that, I said, hey, he's getting too overvalued. Some people had him as running back 3 of the class. I said, I don't know what that is. Now, 2022, 1,300 yards. He had that 33 receptions. Like, he has value. Eric Gray's the type of guy, if you can get him in the late third, early fourth, you're just going to smash that all day just because I think he can actually be a legitimate running back in the NFL in terms of what he can be asked to do. Like, he does a lot of good things. We're going to be talking about a highlight of my over Football Guys here this next week. So definitely check that out. Get a subscription if you haven't already. But Eric Gray is a value, and Eric Gray is a lot of fun to watch. Now, in terms of his draft capital, I think that's the question, right? He has 5th round projected draft capital. That's like, right? So, but he has a big week this week at the Senior Bowl. If he can really show out the Senior Bowl, you're going to see that get up to, 4th round, 3rd round. I think 4th round is probably the most likely spot for him. Now, you've seen him fluctuate there in terms of where he's at. Like in December, he was maybe getting a little bit more buzz than that. Like 62 is his best rank. So you saw him kind of jump up a little bit. If he does well at that Senior Bowl, I could really see Eric Gray stepping up, being that guy, and moving forward. You're like, hey, that's a great late third, early fourth. So I just want to give you guys a single quarterback mock because I know some people on the channel have been asking for that. So that's the single quarterback. That's where the values are. Those are where the tiers are. Some sleepers I try to give you guys and everything there. So I appreciate you guys. Hit that like and subscribe button. We appreciate you here on the channel. We're almost up to 2,000 subs, and that is incredible since we really just started this thing late November. But again, hit that like. Let us know in the comments what kind of mocks you want next. I have Devy mocks. We can do some Colleges of Canton mocks where they have a college team all the way to the NFL. We can do anything you want. Put it in the comments. Let me know. All right. I'll see you all later.